I'm on it, sir.
It's coming. People might already be watching actually, but there we go. Done. So everyone that has already subscribed to our YouTube channel, which by the way, if you are watching this and you haven't yet you subscribed to our YouTube channel, get with the fucking program. But everyone that's subscribed has already gotten an email and let everybody know that we are live with Guy at Anarchy Guy, right? Anarchy Wheels _ Guy. What is it?
Anarchy Wheels _ Guy.
Anarchy Wheels _ Guy. But yeah, so it'll let everybody know that we are currently live with you, and so people click in. So Guy, if you want to, in the meantime, share that link. So for everybody that's joining us, I've said this on every other time that we've done one of these Zoom live broadcasts, but what you are watching right now is us actually recording the podcast that will go live on hopefully on Thursday, but sometime this week we'll have it up, hopefully again on Thursday. We try to push every Thursday. If you have not yet share, subscribe to our podcast, just look up Garage Chronicles podcast and it'll take you to it. If you're on, it's on iTunes, it's on, you can say, Alexa, I can't say it too loud because she'll start playing. Just play Garage Chronicles podcast. But so, like I said, you're just watching us record this. So feel free to chime in on the chat box on the YouTube channel. Make sure you've subscribed there as well to keep up with our future, guests. But other than that, when Kevin and Guy are ready, let me know and we can kick off the actual, the recording. Or we're already recording, but the actual episode. You guys ready?
Yeah,
I think
I deleted or did the wrong one for the streaming. It's the YouTube link, right?
Yep.
Gotcha.
You got it?
Yeah, that's going up right now.
Cool. All right. So we'll get started in 5, 4, 3. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending when and where you're listening to us. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Kevin, and I desperately need a haircut today.
And this is the Garage Chronicles podcast. Before we get into it, we have Guy Atherton from ANRKY Wheels and a whole bunch of other past history to go into. Before we're able to dive into that, I want to make sure to take a moment to thank, first of all, GritMat. GRY, you see the Y is very important, PMAT.com, or they're at GritMat on the gram and everywhere else. Tom, by the way, who is the CEO of GritMat, is doing some really awesome stuff about what it's like to be a CEO during the coronavirus. So make sure you're checking out his podcast or his social media as well. But GritMat is amazing. We use it in studio all the time. We're using it right now. We actually have a beer sitting on it. We'll talk about our beer sponsor in a little bit. But GritMat, to go to the script, is a multi-purpose non-slip tool mat. It's incredibly durable, heat resistant, flexible, chemical resistant, and will hold your tools in place. Just the places that are using it's NASA, Google, IndyCar, NASCAR, IMSA, HRA, and Garage Chronicles. So as a thank you for checking them out, if you go to gritmat.com and use promo code Garage Chronicles, all one word, you'll get 10% off. So at checkout, use Garage Chronicles as a promo code and you'll get 10% off your order, and they will really appreciate it. Speaking of percentages off order, we also have this amazing relationship with M&P Speed Shop. Kevin happens to be wearing one of the shirts right now. He's going to do the whole rep.
I'll do this, but I've got to chime in so we can actually see it. But this is the Gentleman Racer shirt. Thank you to Mike Satterfield at the Gentleman Racer and M&P Speed Shop.
So if you go to mpspeedshop.com, there's some really, really, really good stuff. They have a license to do golf racing stuff, and just basically their stuff is really clean. It's good. It's the kind of stuff that you can wear, and people not go that. What a car dork, car nerd. It's just well designed stuff. They have trucker hats starting around $20. But if you use promo code GC, like Garage Chronicles 2020 at checkout, you're gonna get 15% off. That promo code is available all year, but don't sleep on it because they sell out of stuff. Go to mpspeedshop.com and check it out. So without further ado, let us formally welcome Guy Atherton from ANRKY Wheels.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey guys, get it?
Never heard that one.
Good. Very good. Wow. Congratulations. Dude, we're so happy to have you. So Guy has been, as we cycle through the people that I know to get them, as I beg them and plead with them to join us, for on the podcast recording. Guy's one of the people that I've known for, I think, as long as I've been in the Volkswagen world, which is 15 plus years now. And Guy has dabbled in the Volkswagen world for sure. He's been with companies like HRE. He started his own wheel line called ANRKY, ANRKY. So make sure you check them out on the gram. It's at ANRKY wheels, all one word, on the gram. Their wheels are on the craziest shit. They are definitely not inexpensive wheels, and they are definitely not going on inexpensive cars. So we're going to talk a lot about the wheel game, but why don't you we like to talk about Guy the person. So Guy Dude, tell us about Guy Dude. And for sure, I know you're no longer in Southern California, but why don't you give us a quick little, not even quick. Let's talk about what formed you as a man.
What formed me as a man? Well, there's a lot of stuff, but as far as my auto industry, what really got me started there, my dad worked for Caterpillar for 38 years. And he was wrenching. And so I was always around a dyno. We used to go to the dyno days, they'd have these big diesels on there that would put down 3,500 foot-pounds of torque. And this is way back in the day. And they would just do this and we'd watch them blow up. I'd always pray for one to blow up on the dyno. That was the coolest thing as a kid, to watch it just like lift the head off the big tractor trailer, stuff like that. But I always grew up around him. And they also had, at the time, the only dyno in San Diego that could hold over about 1,000 horsepower. And so I got to know a lot of the tuners and builders in that area, and some pretty cool guys in the industry, some guys that are responsible for, the judge, the GTO judge, and got to hang out with those guys. And they're just like old school street racers. And, I told my mom, I say this a lot. I said, Mom, I didn't do drugs when I was a kid. I kept my drinking through college to a minimum, but, street racing was something that I grew up doing. I don't condone it, obviously, but it was something that I've always built street cars and enjoy it and going fast. It's always been a lot of fun. And, I got an opportunity to hang around some just awesome builders.
Guy Atherton and Garage Chronicles podcast would like to remind you that we do not condone the street racing activities. Please, off-road uses only.
And that was back when there was no houses or anything. You can go out in the middle of nowhere. But allegedly, yes. Yeah. And especially being in this industry, there's a lot of people that build fast cars and allegedly like to have fun with them. That's why they build them. They go out and have a little fun with them every once in a while. But
so, what was the car? What was the car that you were most like, that you got like that when you were into the street racing allegedly world? What was the car you were driving at the time?
Allegedly a Fox body Mustang.
Nice. So you're that guy.
Yeah, I was that
Rolling
guy.
in the 5.0, right?
Yes. My very first car was a 67. I had a 67 Mustang Coupe, and then I went to a 90 GT and then a 92 LX. And so, yeah, it just got me hooked. And, nothing at the time, you could have 350 horsepower in a Fox body and you were ruling the stuff. You were ruling the world back then, and then we put spray on it and, oh man, it was over. You pretty much knew if you were going to get beat.
So like at that time, right? Like in the early mid 90s with the, the street racing scene, when things like the Fox body and the 5.0 and everything like that were around, what was like the king of the road? Like, what was the car that like when it showed up that everyone would go like, oh shit, like
an old school 69 Camaro with a big block in it. Tub.
So still just like old American muscle stuff was ruling the scene at the time.
Yeah. We had cars, these cars ran down in the 11s back then. And, that's a 302 was bolt-ons, heads, cam, and then some spray on it. And it'd run down in the 11s and you were ruling the street for the most part.
Yeah. Fully prepped and stuff like that. Yeah. Came off a trailer for sure, I imagine.
No, I drove that thing everywhere.
That's awesome. So what was how did you go from car enthusiast to being in the car industry?
So this was one of the funniest interviews I've ever done in my life. So when I was going through college, I used to do all my projects. I'd focus them on the automotive industry, helping friends out, and just do case studies. And then back in the day, I actually had a set of 501s, HRE 501s on my 92 LX, and a buddy of mine had a set of 505s, and he had unfortunately curbed one. And I literally just gotten done surfing. And my buddy calls me up. He says, "Hey, I'm over here at HRE picking up my wheel." He said, "I know you've been thinking about doing something different. They're looking for somebody. Why don't you come over here?" And so I drove over there, and I'm sitting there in shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops. And next thing I know, I was sitting down with the president of HRE and the director of sales at the time, just chatting. And then it was pretty much like, "Okay, when can you start?" And put in my notice. And 2 weeks later, I started at HRE.
So what were you doing when you first started there?
I was working in the hotel industry. So I worked at a 5-star resort. And then actually at that time I was with a country club, and I was assistant operations manager at a country club.
You were fully like that Paul Walker kid from the movies. You were driving a 5.0. You're working at that was you.
Sleeping in the back of the shop at night, on a cot and all that good stuff.
I
just work enough to be able to surf in the mornings, man. That's what I'm here for.
That's always been that's been my soft spot.
And so where, like, what was your first position with HRE? Like, what was the first thing that you were doing for them?
I started off just doing sales. Came in there. They had changed around quite a bit. They had a whole new team. They had a new president. At the time, they had a brand new engineer, and then they had a new director of sales that had all come in. And so HRE was in a big transition at that time. And so I came in just to help in sales, and it's a blast. I mean, for me, it's fun. That's the whole thing. And that's why I got back into the wheel industry. I took a brief hiatus from the wheel industry, and to me, it's just fun. I get to talk with so many different people, all walks of life, all different types of careers that they're in. And I get them when we're having fun. We're not talking
spending money. Love it.
We're spending money, and we're talking about their babies.
Yeah, making cool shit. So how long were you with HRE?
Gosh, almost about 14 years. Wow. Yeah, almost 14 years.
Wow. So it's impossible to tell the story of Guy and ANRKY without talking about HRE. Like that's obviously I know that ANRKY. I not that I know. From what I understand, ANRKY's, the HRE does the production. Like they are essentially the factory for ANRKY, essentially.
Correct. And so what we did, I left HRE on very, very good terms. Really great group of guys. I mean, heck, most of us, we raised our families. We all saw that portion of our, having kids and watching them grow up. And some of them saw some pretty wild times of my life. And so we all knew them very well. And we sat down when I was not with HRE. I still had clients that would call me up and say, "Hey, I picked up a new 458. I picked up a new Huracan. What should we do?" We'd sit down and just talk shop and go over some options. And then they would end up going and purchasing through one of the dealers, the HRE dealers at the time. And then I had some other guys go out and try some other brands. And they're like, "Hey, this didn't work out. We need something, and we need something with aggressive styling." And I mean, let's face it, HRE, I truly believe, builds one of the best wheels out there, if not the best. I think they do everything they can, no corners cut, to produce the absolute best product possible. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to have the aggressive styling and yet have unmatched quality, plain and simple.
Yeah, very, like, it's a super strategic partnership, essentially. And that's actually, so I know Kevin wants to ask you some questions about like the X's and O's of a wheel game, but what I think it's what's so interesting about what you did.
Not quite sure.
One of the things that that a lot of. Go ahead.
I just didn't know where you were going with that. I'm sorry.
Just go ahead. Yeah. So no, it's all good. So it seems like one of the big errors that people that are starting wheel companies that want to create this brand, it's essentially impossible to do your own production but they try to make it out as if they have like this production capacity, right? And so I think one of the things that was really wise about, you know, the way that you took this brand was that rather than trying to front like you guys are actually producing the wheel, you guys have an amazing partnership with a, you know, a top-notch production facility that you know, everyone can know and trust, rather than, hey, like, you know, we use, you know, blah blah blah, whoever's, you know, making the faces for everybody else, we import the barrels just like everybody else.
It's just
so I have
go ahead, B. I was trying to cut in
no,
for
so
you, but go ahead.
yeah. So Kevin and I both have or we together have a domain name called genericforge.com. And like we've every time we're walking around HRE, or sorry, not SEMA,
or just Instagram posts. I mean, how many forged wheels companies do you see every day on Instagram? You know, they pop up, you know, all these different companies you don't know the names of, you've never heard of them before, and you see the wheels and you're like, oh, that's the same face design as somebody else's. They're all variations of it. So we're like, oh, it's just generic forge. That's what these companies are. You are definitely not generic forge. We'll put it that way. But we thought it was funny, and who knows, maybe one day it will become a thing, but we do own the domain name because it was that good of a joke that we had to go.
I'm kind of jealous, guys. I won't lie.
Well, so yeah, and we've always been like, oh yeah, like this will be like 5-spoke. It's like what it would be called, right? Or be
like the GF5, right? Like
rather than like trying to be like, I want to do it so badly, but it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously.
I think what a lot of people, and you nailed it, Brandon. I mean, you walk through and you see so many, and how do you differentiate yourselves? You know, if we would have had wheel company, blah, 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 as you like to call them, you know, cut them, we'd be just like everybody else. And yeah, I've got great relationships with a lot of people in the industry, but you know, at some point that only goes so far. And so that's how we differentiate ourselves is really absolutely zero corners cut. You know, we're not trying to pretend to build a wheel to fit a budget. You know, maybe someday we branch out into something different. We're going to obviously expand our footprint, but you know,
genericforge.com is ripe for acquisation, by the
way. There you go.
What, you let it go? No.
I'm saying.
I was gonna say we still have it. Yeah, don't you dare let that go, Brandon.
It would be generic forged by ANRKY by HRE.
Well, but then there's flow formed by generic forged by HRE also. I mean, the possibilities are endless here, guys. I mean, it really is.
That's awesome.
But, one of my questions for you was, you know, I mean, I love what you guys do. Obviously, I was out there at SEMA. I can't remember if that was last year or the year before that we went to your
2 years ago.
A hotel party, basically with some new designs and some very cool colors. I remember it was one of my favorite things. But how close are you to the design of the wheels? You know, what input do you have on that? Are you right there step by step, or is that part of your team? How do you integrate with that piece?
So I like to describe myself as the guy that looks at a picture and goes, yeah, that looks good, or no, I'm not feeling it. If I try to design it, I'll have this great concept in my mind, but that is not my strong point. You know, my partner John, you know, he has a lot of these visions that he can put in and start creating them, because I'll end up with a couple weird funky spokes and some oddly balanced just horrible stuff, you know.
You're like me. You can picture it in your head, and then you go and try to draw it, and it becomes a stick figure, and you're like, no, that's not at all what I had. I got it here, but I just can't convey it onto paper.
And so you know, guys like John, and then obviously the engineering team, because what we do is we then submit it. It goes over there, and the engineers look at it and go, okay, this is not possible. This is possible. And then we're going to have to tweak and change this. And then usually what I do at that point is they'd say, hey, what do you think? And I look at it, and that's where I look at it and go, hey, something's too thick here. Something's drawn way too much weight in the hub area or out into the spoke. What can we do here? And then they start tweaking it and refining it. You know, that's my position. I run mostly the sales. I run all of the sales side and the relationships with our dealers. That is definitely not my strong point.
So how much of are wheels constantly being designed no matter what, like just in the background? Like it's just, they're constantly being churned out and it's just a matter of finding the right car for that wheel?
You know, there's a number of things that happen. So yeah, there's always designs that are getting kicked around. thought process. Sometimes you put them down on paper and you go, okay, that's really bad. Sometimes you look at something that you think is going to be bad, you put it down, you go, wow, that's actually really nice. And then you look at what are the OEs doing? What are their design teams doing? Because when you look at the OE design teams, that just gives you some insight as to what the future holds, and you can build the best looking wheel, but if it doesn't look like right on a car, you're not going to sell any. And there's just definitely, if you look at our lineup and you look at some wheels and you go, okay, that wheel fits on a Huracan. I mean, I could build any wheel to fit on the Huracan, but that one looks proper on a Huracan, or that looks proper on a 488 or an F8. And so there's certain wheels that definitely fit that style a little bit better, but there's always something. I mean, that's the,
if we're talking Huracan and a Huracan Performante at that, that is definitely a wheel that fits a Huracan Performante, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. That's our AN36.
So, how often do you have like Kevin and I are both Porsche enthusiasts, and I'm trying to wrap my head around the ordering process and something that's as kind of one-on-one relationship wise as what you guys do. I imagine it's not just like, hi, I have so-and-so car, I like this wheel, click, done. Right. So, what I'm curious of is do you have people like kind of picking out wheels sometimes that just aren't going to
just something that maybe you don't think is going to look good? I have a Porsche Turbo and I want this wheel, and you're like, that wheel is not going to look good on a 991 Turbo or a 992 as an example. And then what do you do from there?
Well, so if it's something that we get really, there are some things that we get really concerned about, and usually it's somebody doing a 3-piece wheel, an OE diameter on a stock height car. And then especially if it's a big vehicle, like let's say an 812 or an F12 Ferrari, that's not a small vehicle. And so if you put a stock 20-inch 3-piece on there, especially if you do something like a black lip, it's going to look a little odd. And ultimately our goal is we want the customer to look at that thing and just be like, oh, heck yeah, that's what I was envisioning.
Nailed it.
I'm so happy you brought up the 812 as an example, because I was drooling over this afternoon. I was like, my God, is that not the epitome of perfection with the colors? I mean, everything about this just works, to your point.
They got the one sunny day in Chicago for that car. Yeah, that the 812 is just a beautiful car. I mean, it really is, and you got to do it right. But it's a big car, and people don't realize that, if they haven't been around them, it's a big car. And so at stock height, you start, if you put that wheel on a stock height car, it's going to look good, but man, just drop it down and it's night and day, just put it down just a little bit.
So how much, on the average order, how much guidance are you guys, do you guys, how often is it that somebody's like, hey, I just got a new C8 Corvette. I got the brand new Vet. What do you want to do? Like, how often do you have it that versus people coming in and just saying, hey, I've been looking at your catalog. I would like to do that. I get them just kind of filling out an order sheet.
It's honestly, it's about 50-50. And it also depends if it's going through my dealers. Usually my dealers are doing that. We don't sell direct, but we definitely help and facilitate the customers direct. So I get some guys that come in there and they're just a blank slate. They're like, look, I've never bought wheels before. I have no idea, but I saw this picture, and it really caught my eye. So that's usually what I'll do is, okay, give me a little bit of direction. Do you like a 5-spoke? Do you like a multi-spoke, a mesh? What color do you envision with the car? I'll give them our gallery and let them go on there and take a look at it. And when they do that, you start to find out who and what they are looking for right away. And then you can give them some guidance.
Makes sense. So what do you think the biggest mistake that people make in the wheel arena?
Picking wheels, color, trying to throw too much color at it. If you've got something like a lime green Huracan or a highlighter 720S, you don't want to compete. You don't want the wheel to compete with the car on color. You want it to complement that car. The color on the car speaks for itself. So you want to do something that complements the car. If you want to tie in a little bit of color, that's fine. Maybe something on the center cap, very subtle. But I think sometimes, if we all know the guy with a, white on white Corvette, did the white wheels, or you name it. I mean,
listen to Fox Body Mustang.
I think that's Rick Ross you're talking about, actually. Rick Ross is always white on white, but so was Brandon for a time anyways. So we can throw a little dig at him for that.
I did too. The Supra with the old 5-spoke DPs, that's what it was, right? The white on white, the 95, was it? I mean,
yeah, it's good stuff. So what's it like for you? Like, given that, I know you're not driving a Ferrari yet. I know you're not driving a Lamborghini. I know you're not driving a new 911. What are you got rid of that truck, or you're still driving it?
I'm still driving the truck.
Yeah. So, what is it like for you to be around such wealth constantly, and I guess not really having full access to that world, right? Like, as far as like you are around exotic cars, or at least dealing with exotic cars all the time, but it's not as if you get to go in your garage and go fire one up and go, like you are kind of adjacent to it. Like, so I know, like, in my detailing business, I have clients that become friends that have the McLarens and the Ferraris, whatever. And I will get them for the weekend. But there's really no, it's very unlikely that that's going to be in my near or, medium term future. And I know, like, sometimes it can be a little bit weird, right? Like, I get to be around it, but it's definitely not mine. Do you have, like, that?
Coming back, B? I think he's basically just asking, what's it like to be around him all the time and not be able to bring him home? What's the feeling on that?
So, I mean, I think there's a number of things with that. I mean, first of all, I think that's why I get along with a lot of my customers from the retail side is, those are their achievements. They worked hard. I'm not going to assume that somebody's going to throw me the keys to their $500,000 car and go take it for a ride. That's a call I never want to make. Is, hey, I had a momentary lapse of reason here and I crashed your car. And so, with that said, we want them. I always am trying to create that image that they want. What kind of person are they? Are they conservative? Are they a little bit flashy? Usually you can look at the car and identify them pretty quickly. I mean, let's face it, you don't buy a Lambo to be low key. Nobody buys an Aventador SVJ and says, give me something subtle, please.
Even if it's a silver or a white one, it's still not subtle. You can't, when it's wider than the lane, it's not a subtle car by any means.
And so it's fun, but it's their money. You can't ever assume that you're gonna, they're gonna just spend it with you. They gotta have that trust with you, and that you're looking out for their best interests. We always give everybody a straight shot. If there's something that we should be concerned with based on the conversation we've had, hey, you live in New York and you want to run 24s, or you want to do a 21-22 and you're driving through downtown Manhattan. Okay. You might want to think about that, just maybe a 2021 on your SVJ would be just fine.
Right. But like, so do you never feel like, not like how, but like, if there's a SEMA event with ANRKY clients, right? And everyone's arriving in their exotics and you're showing up in the pickup truck. You never get like any kind, you got no feelings about that.
It's never really bugged me. It really hasn't. It just, usually I'm already there. So we're hosting it or something like that. So the guys show up and we get to go down and hang out and check them out. And it's kind of fun. The relationship that I have with these guys, they're more than willing to share that experience because, it's their baby and we've been there with them to help create their vision. And so it's like, hey, come on down. We get to go check it out. That's why we have so many photo shoots. Our customers, our dealers do a great job of getting us those photo shoots. And, most of the time with the customers, you establish that relationship and they're like, you want to take pictures of my car? Heck yeah. And so we get that arranged and we get the pictures, because that's the other thing that you get is you get these customers like me. I'll pick a style right away. When it comes to colors, oh man, I will dwell on it for weeks on end on what do I want to do? What finish do I want to do? If it's my personal stuff, somebody else, I can do it right away. But then I'm going.
I remember what you went through with the finish on the HREs.
Yeah, it's just, and so a lot of guys, they honestly see some of our pictures and they just go, I want it to look just like that. I've got the same color. And so we do that a lot,
And so if someone comes to you, let's say like on that 812 as an example, and they go,
Yeah.
I want mine to look exactly like that. I mean, are you good with that? Do you try to sway them into like, let's do something a little different to customize it to be a little bit more fitting to you based on what you know about the client? How does that relationship go?
I mean, if the guy is in the same exact area, I might give my heads up, because a lot of them, that's the thing. These clients, that's another thing with ANRKY is they want exclusivity. They don't want to pull up in an 812 with those wheels on it and then see the same wheel on a 92 Toyota Camry.
You don't want to pull up at Cars and Coffee and be like, oh, check out my new ANRKYs, and then the car 2 cars over has the same one, same color, same step lips,
exactly. So they want that exclusivity, because it's when people see it, it's one thing to have the 812, it's another thing to then take the wheels and put the suspension, put the exhaust on it, maybe some of the carbon pieces, a lot of the aero stuff that's going on out there is really nice, and then put the wheels on top of it. That just makes it, especially if you're in a market like Los Angeles or Miami. I mean, Ferraris are a dime a dozen out there. It's people can't relate to it. Now living in Texas, we've got there's a lot of money in the little town that I'm in, and there's a lot of really nice cars, but it's still not at the same volume as Southern California or Miami. Not even close.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brandon and I are both he's in the Midwest. I'm technically in the South somehow, even though I'm only 3 hours away. But you go in Sunset Boulevard in LA and you'll see any brand new exotic and multitudes of them. You come out here, and if somebody's got a 720, everybody flocks around it like it's something they've never seen before. So it's crazy how geography kind of dictates what we're seeing. One of the things I love about what you guys do, though, and I'm going to share this picture just because, but just the breadth of cars that you put stuff on. I mean, it's not just exotics. I mean, this is a beautiful 72 C10. Gorgeous set of wheels on it. Obviously a really well-built truck, but it's just cool that it's not just like, oh, you know what? You don't have, a new Huracan or a 720 or whatever the new supercar is. Yeah, we want to help you make this thing really cool and make it your own.
Yeah. And that's the fun part about this. We actually used to have kind of just an internal joke, like what would be the craziest car that you would do wheels on?
Oh, I like that question. Can we run with that for a minute?
Oh man, yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't done anything really crazy here yet. Most of our stuff is kind of following along the lines of what you'd expect with our product right now. So the craziest one I've ever done was honestly while I was at HRE, and it was a Hyundai Elantra wide body. I swear to you, and so it was funny. I actually, when the call came in, I thought somebody at the office was playing a joke on me. And I was like looking down the hallway. I was doing everything to try to figure out who was doing this, because it was right at closing time. And then I'm just kind of listening to the parts he's listing off. And I'm like, okay, those aren't parts that the average person knows. The brake setup that he's running, the engine, the transmission. And then almost a year to the day, my dealer called me and he's like, you're never going to believe who just came in and ordered wheels. And I was like, who? And he goes, Hyundai boy. That's how we referred to him. And so I guess this car was built solely to street race. And the only reason he was buying our wheels at the time was because we were the only thing that could fit over the brakes and get the offset that he needed. And I guess it was some crazy car, had a sequential 6-speed transmission in it, had basically a rally motor in it, all-wheel drive, and ran supposedly high 8s.
So it basically wasn't a Hyundai anymore at that point.
No. But it was all primer brown. I never even saw it. I never got a picture. I was so bummed, but oh man. But that's probably the craziest one that I've ever sold.
Interesting stuff. Brandon, if you could put baller wheels on anything, something weird, what's your pick? Got anything weird in mind?
That's a good question. I think honestly, like what I don't see enough of is like my 66 Beetle, for example, right? Like that, like not really well done. Like it was fine, but
it's a little ratty.
It was driver quality for sure. I love seeing shit like that on like ridiculous. I would love to see like LMs on that. Just like a really, really nice set of wheels. just like one of the more interesting kind of wheel displays that I've seen was on Rusty's Mike Burrows's E28. His after it was just covered in oil and half burnt, and he had that amazing set of Ronal, the like the gold plated Ronal wheels that were just like perfect. And that was always that's always stuck out to me as like, this like the kind of comparison between really ratty but dope and like holy shit bling. So that's kind of something I've always thought about kind of recreating.
Interesting. I like it.
What about you?
Oh, I've been thinking about this, and for some reason I'm going like weird econo box, like early 90s Japanese cars. And for some reason a Galant VR4, like a 91 Galant VR4 stands out with just something with like some insane dish on it and like a good color scheme, like just something. I don't know why that car is in my mind right now, but I feel like that would be something interesting to do different, because you really don't see them. They've got wheels that they're gonna have like Rotas on them, or maybe Volks or something, but nothing crazy.
Or like a Brodozer would be dope also. Like a rough country lifted like new Silverado. Just like
I don't want to call this a Brodozer because I don't feel like this is, but we do have a Trail Boss LT on AN36S.
Oh, that's really dope, actually. Yeah, that's really cool.
Absolutely. Looks great.
You guys better be nice to that one. That's actually John's truck, my partner.
I think it looks fantastic.
No, yeah.
No, that's why I said I don't want to call it a Brodozer, because it looks great. Like that's a word I would typically use for a car I'm not a fan of.
That's literally exactly what I had in like something like that is exactly what I pictured, and it does in fact look awesome.
He's probably sitting there patting himself on the back right now going, yes, you guys did it. He's like, yeah. No, that thing looked really clean. We were really happy with the way that came out.
Absolutely. Well, so I mean, there obviously the exotic game is crazy right now. Hypercars are all the rage, and it's always, what's the newest, what's the best, what's the fastest, what's the most wild from an aero perspective. I see you guys have done pretty much everything under the sun. You got a Portofino out here, you've got a C8 Corvette. What's new on the horizon that you really want to put some wheels on and make it your own?
Oh man, I mean, Ferrari, Porsche, we got some new turbo, the 992 turbo. We got some of those coming in already. The new stuff is always fun. I mean, you got the SF90, the Ferrari, Lambo is, I think, going to be kind of doing its thing right now, as it has for a little while, but Ferrari's got a lot of new stuff coming out. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with some of the manufacturers in this electric car stuff. So we've done a Taycan, we've done a couple Taycans, but they tend to have the wheels pushed out real far, so you don't get a real deep concave on them or something like that. So it's a different concept when you're thinking of what to do with these cars, because they're trying to make them autonomous. There's so many different things to consider with those. But it looks
out
good.
Of control. Out of control. Amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
So go ahead, keep going.
I was going to say, it's funny because right now, typically, if you were taking a general idea of an electric car person or buyer, they tend to be a little bit more conservative. But now you're getting these people that are just going nuts, and they're like, okay, well, now we got to take on. Now we've got this, and the other companies are starting to get in there, and then they realize, okay, they're fast. Maybe you lose that sensual experience with the noise and everything else, but these cars they're getting pretty legit. Okay, I know you guys always wanted to see how long it was going to take, but should we talk about Tesla now or not?
Oh, I like it. He knows the gig. I like it. It's perfect.
I thought about just getting it out of the way right off the bat, but
that's it.
No, it's pretty.
I'd rather talk Taycan all day long, but if we want to talk Tesla, let's talk Tesla.
They're pretty funny, and one of my good buddies out here in Texas he picked up one of those little Model 3 performances, and I gotta say, man, that freaking nutty, thing rips. It just rips. I mean, you're gonna chase it until 100 on almost anything out there.
Oh, absolutely. People talk shit on them all day long until you drive one, and I'll talk shit on them all day long too. But I know in the back of my mind, it's faster than any car I've ever driven. I'd much prefer the Taycan after driving that thing, but I can't speak poorly on Tesla other than their panel gaps and some of the quality issues, and that's pretty much it. And Elon, of course, because he still owes me a Roadster. Last I checked.
He hasn't gotten that to you yet?
He said last December, and I'm still waiting. I put down $250K. I don't know. No roadster
You
show
might
for
have
it.
to take delivery in Texas.
Potentially.
That's the interesting thing out here, because they obviously met some resistance, but there's nothing close here in Texas. I mean, what better place though if you want to take a car and be forced to figure out a way to make the range better? It's Texas, because you don't want to be stuck out in the middle of nowhere when it's 104, 105 out there. Just you can't even turn on the AC because you have no battery.
Absolutely. And you got a bunch of long, flat, straightaways basically to push top speed. You're killing range that way too. And then to not have the charger to be running the AC while you're doing that and depleting mileage. I mean, it's a great place to test them for sure.
Yeah.
So when a new, the new hot shit Lambo or whatever comes out and it's about to hit the streets, how competitive is it for wheel manufacturers to try to get their hands on the first one, right? Like how is it like the draft, right? Like for the NBA where everyone's like, oh, hey, I heard you got a first allocation. I know you're going to do wheels. Come on, do my wheels. Like, is it like that at all? Or what's that like?
No, it's kind of different. I mean, you always, as a manufacturer, you want to be the first with the newest, hottest thing out there. You want to have your wheels on that car that you can make a huge splash. But it's usually not, you do get the people, and it's kind of funny because it's usually after the car's been out for 2 or 3 months, like, hey, I just got one, you should do them for free. And you're like, you want to do it, but at the same time, it's like, free is a 4-letter word. I get it. I think that's been discussed. Yeah.
It checks out. Yeah, it checks out. FRE.
Well, we were talking about that Instagram page, Are You Sponsored, a couple of episodes ago. And it's hilarious. I mean, I've been following that one ever since. And just to see the messages, people like, oh, hey, are you sponsored? You want to sponsor my truck?
Mike Forsyth with
I saw that
from Boston. Yeah. Yeah, he's a funny guy.
I know he shares the same. We all share that thing. It's like, I'm going to change the vehicle for anonymity of the customer. Right. But this guy says, it was a sponsorship request that came in and said, you should sponsor me. I just got a new F8. And it's not an F8, but I'm just saying, and it was like, okay. Why?
What other value compelling. Are you bringing to the table? Why am I going to give you a free set of wheels?
Can I also give you money?
Yeah.
What else would you like? Do you want my house? Do you want, take a look around. You can have whatever you want.
Have you met my daughter?
But it is, and it's funny because one of I call it planting seeds, sales, whatever, 101, that you learned back in the day. And I try to remember, hey, we were all that geeky kid was like just this big, oh my gosh, look at that car. That's beautiful. And then, we all have to start somewhere. And so part of our thing is when people send in requests, as crazy as they seem, hey, I've got a 97 or 96 Eclipse or whatever it is, we respond to them, or an 89, whatever they were, early 90s Eclipse, we respond to them, treat them, hey, give them a full quote, everything that they want, because you never know. You do run into those guys that are just so absolutely in love with that particular vehicle that you never know. The Volkswagen
I was going to say that's a great segue into the Volkswagen scene, because I know, Guy, you were part of the Volkswagen scene, and you get that whole thing about, we were talking before we jumped on live, the Volkswagen guys love to spend more on wheels than their car is worth. It's a normal thing when you go check out a Volkswagen show.
Yeah.
So you have to take them seriously. I get it, but at least maybe they're not all asking for free. They're asking for a quote on, hey, can you build me something cool and something special for my car, which is great. I think there's a big difference between, hey, you want to sponsor my 92 Golf versus, hey, I want to get a set of wheels for my 92 Golf that has this, and this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the Volkswagen scene. I wasn't even prepared for that. I mean, that was just nuts. Like the amount of modifications and the little detail that they go to and how enthusiastic they are. It was honestly pretty awesome. It's a little odd sometimes. You sit there and go, wow, okay. But it's fun. And then, I had the opportunity 2 years ago, I went over to Europe and, got to see that scene, and wow, I mean, you're talking countries where air is illegal, and yet every single car at the show has air. And then every year they take it, put the stock suspension back in, drive it in, get it inspected, and then 2 days later it has the air back on it, and they're driving around.
So it's just like Ocean City, Maryland for H2O.
Yes.
So for the wives at home, for everyone, for the wives listening that aren't in like the car scene, when he says air is illegal, he doesn't mean that air is illegal. He means airbag suspensions for the cars is illegal. I was like, oh, like, yeah, dude. Listen, the way America's going, air's gonna be legal soon. Like I thought you meant like that, and then I understood what you meant, that you go to the show and every car's on air.
They have to go get them like MOT and stuff, however many times, once a year, just to make sure that they're road legal and they're up to par and all that. So yeah, these guys are swapping parts left and right just to bring them to where they're seeing. I'm assuming it's the show you went to.
But even in Germany, air is still legal. You still can have air.
As long as your car will pass their inspection, assuming all the other
maybe
stuff
not
is
air
up to
suspension,
snuff.
but air is legal.
Yes, air is still legal. You can breathe without a license.
As long as we don't elect damn Democrats, socialists.
You went there, not me.
Yep. Hey, Brandon always goes political. He's always the one to drop it, but we'll cut that.
Guy and I have had those conversations more than a couple of times. Actually, Guy, can we go into healthcare a little bit, Guy?
Oh, man.
Uh-oh.
Well, I have my opinion. I've got firsthand experience with it. And that's honestly, that's one thing, we were talking about just the industry. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and he asked a question like, how'd you get into it? What's it like? And one of the coolest things with this industry is you meet some of the most awesome people. Like there's a bunch of guys that, you might have it out, you might have some words, whatever. And then at the same moment they turn around, I don't know if you guys know, I think Brandon, I had a daughter, my oldest daughter, who's a cancer survivor. And I was working at ANRKY when that happened. And the way that community came together was pretty amazing. Like I'm forever in debt. Like just anything I could ever do for somebody, I would do it in a heartbeat because it was just amazing. And, the guys at ANRKY at the time, made sure we were I had a job to go to and let me go take care of my daughter, as long as I needed to, and then go back to work. And, it took my mind off it. They helped me. I don't think they realize in that sense, I got a chance to go and take my mind off it for a little bit and do that. But the things I've seen this community do, I mean, we see it all the time, but people will bend over backwards. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's really interesting actually that I think the car scene can be super fickle. Like when it comes to like really like unimportant things, people can get really, really shitty. But generally when it becomes real, right? Like when it's something about real life, when it's not like just about, oh, like, is it APR or Riva? Like when it's not like something that's unimportant, generally, it seems like the vast majority of people in any community, but for sure, like, I have firsthand experience, and I know, like, you just talked about, you do too. Generally, the people in the car community are awesome. And it's like, it's so shocking, like, considering what we also see in terms of like just the gross shittiness that people can have in the car scene. But when it comes down to it, if a car is broken down, they have that urge to stop and help.
Yeah. And I think that's the cool thing about it. They all know, we've all been there. We've all had the car broken down or something's happened. And, it's really cool too, when you see these guys, with a lot of these supercars, and I have some people who have turned into close personal friends, and they're literally like, yeah, sit in it. I don't care. It's a car. Jump on in. They let the kids go in there, man. That's rad. Because some of these kids, I took it for granted living in San Diego that, there's not Ferraris everywhere. There's not Lambos everywhere. So I moved out here and I'm like, oh, okay, there's not.
We were talking about that the other day, actually, just the fact that a lot of times the people with the most expensive cars or the hypercars, the exotics, are the ones that are more likely to be like, yeah, jump in, poke around, take a look. Like, hey, your kid likes it, jump in the driver's seat, let's take some pictures and all that. And the guy who's got like a, maybe something under 75K, like, no, don't touch it. This thing is priceless. Like,
so
you can't have anything.
for my detailing business, one of like the very first really nice cars that I detailed was a guy that had a 458. And so I remember just, and this is kind of where the Kevin's comment came from. So, and I tell this story somewhat frequently, but the first day that I came to do his car, so I did his 458 and his wife's Range Rover. And he's like, oh, like, hey, come, here's the address, meet me there. And I went, picked up the car, and so I was picking up the 458. He's like, oh, have you ever driven a Ferrari? Do you know how to put the car in gear? Like, have you driven a Ferrari? And if anybody ever asks you, like, hey, do you know how to do A, B, or C in their $300,000? I got this. Yeah, just. Am I back yet?
Yeah, you're back now.
Am I back? Cool. Yeah. So if anybody ever asks you, like, if you're about to get, go drive somebody's $300,000 car, and they say, hey, do you know how to do the transmission? Right. The answer is always no. Why don't you show me? Right now, you never want to be the guy like, oh yeah, I got this. I'm an expert. And then
put it in drive instead of reverse and put it right through their garage wall.
Yeah. No. Just if they're ever asking you, the answer is always like, yeah, why don't you show me? So he met me at his house and literally threw me the keys. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll see, I'll bring it back when you're done. And they always, the people with the exotics, without exception, always go, hey, and like, make sure to have some fun with it. Tell me what you think is like one of the lines that I get.
Yeah.
The most
give me your opinion of it after you've had it for a little bit of time.
Let me know. And so,
I just think it's so cool because it makes them a little bit more accessible, and it's something that I probably won't be able to ever afford in my life. But you meet the right guy and he throws you the keys to it, and I'll drive anything that anybody throws keys to me.
And it was probably I think it was only the second or third time that I was doing like almost like a weekly detail for the guy, and I brought up the fact that my daughter's like school year was starting the next day or something like that. He's like, oh, dude, listen, keep it for the night. Like, go drive it. Take your daughter to school. And I literally took, by the way, my daughter's like the least like flashy person ever. So she's like, I'm not getting cars.
But she loves cars though.
I'm not getting in that fucking thing to go to school. There's no way. I'm like, oh, listen, you have two choices. Either you get in it, or when I drop you off and I'm going to come back, I'm going to rev, this is your choice. But so he's like, yeah, just take it for the night. Just make sure, just listen, do me a favor and bring it back clean. I'm like, oh, dude, of course I'm going to do that. So I had the car out like, that no, definitely filled up, definitely clean. But I had the car out for the night, and he's like, listen, drive as many miles as you want. I don't care. Go enjoy it. Go, so I had it out in kind of like the country kind of out putzing around. And there was like one of these like off-brand Dairy Queen stuff. And it was like the end of summer, and there was a bunch of kids hanging out at this, this ice cream hut stand kind of thing. And I decided to pull in because ice cream sounded good. And obviously people swarm, like the kids were, oh my God, like, that's a 450. No way. Like, and like, I knew instinctively that the owner, Greg, would be like, oh yeah, like, of course, let them sit in it. So I let them sit in it. I let them touch, please make sure that, hey, make sure you don't have any keys in your, making sure that they're being respectful and they're cool. I ended up taking like one of the kids who was like freaking out. I was like, dude, like, I asked his parents, like, do you mind if I take your son for a ride? So I went and like, obviously I wasn't driving like a dick, but enough that the kid got to experience it. And I know no matter how much of a car enthusiast that kid was going into that ride, when he got out, he'll be a lifelong fan. And like, it's one of those things like, listen, like, work hard. Like, these things are not like, they are not ordained by God, right? Like, work hard, be successful, apply yourself. And like, there's no reason why you or I or Kevin or any of us can't have one if that's what is really, really important to you. And I love knowing that like that moment was potentially formative for that kid, whether it be in terms of hobby or drive.
Yeah, they're fun. I mean, it's like when you see the kids and their eyes just light up, especially like we have some kids. That's honestly a really fun part, is when you see the kid that's like 6 years old and puts your own knowledge to the test, and you're like, oh my God, this kid knows more than me. It's nuts. And some of these kids are just such enthusiasts, and it's so fun to watch. And so here's one thing that's actually kind of cool. So, Brandon and I make jokes about it, Texas and Southern California, because Texans, let me tell you something, Texans are proud of Texas. There's no doubt about that. But where we live, we actually are fortunate. We're just outside of San Antonio city limits. We're in a small town called Bernie, and everybody Texans always pronounce everything oddly, to say the least. It's different, so it's spelled Boerne, and the car scene's awesome, and you get some awesome old American iron. But the best part is you can still have fun. So if you pull in with an uncapped big block, tubbed Chevelle or Camaro on slicks, the cops just look at you and give you the thumbs up. As long as you're just driving into a car show or something like that, they're going to have fun, man. It's like the old days, oh man, pull them over, give them a ticket, tow that car, get it out of here. You can have fun out here. And so that's, as long as you're not just, it's common sense is what I think, they just let the common sense rule apply a little bit. Don't be an idiot. Don't put people's lives in danger. Just come out and have fun. And I mean, you'll see all sorts of crazy stuff out here. In fact, I went, H-E-B is the local supermarket. One day I'd go in there, I'd been here for probably 2 months. And I actually had to go look this up to see if they actually made it. And it was a Chevelle convertible Yenko.
Wow.
And I saw it sitting in the back corner. And so I'm looking around and I'm kind of looking for the guy. I'm like, okay. So I ran in and got my stuff and I waited for a little bit. And, sure enough, the guy comes walking out. I had to go over there. I'm like, hey, is that yours? Is that real? And he goes, yeah. And he pops the hood, shows me the little link, badge. And I looked it up and there was like one of, I think like 14 or 15 of these things made.
Wow.
And I was like, that's pretty awesome. That's kind of cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the things that I wondered, and it actually took us a long time to get to coronavirus, almost a full hour. But one of the things that
and you're cut.
And that's a wrap. And I have no idea where he's going with this, so I can't even segue.
Speaking of viruses.
Yeah. Your computer has one.
Speaking of viruses. Yes. But yeah, so one of the things, like the very late March, very early April, when everything was just kind of really grinding to a halt, and cops weren't even pulling people over because they didn't want to have, unless it was something really, really important, because they didn't want to have that interaction. There was like this couple week period where all of a sudden that, the relationship of person to cop wasn't like, oh shit, like I just saw a cop, are they going to pull me over? It was like really loose. Like it was really nice. I didn't feel like it was like that kind of like where they are trying to catch us slipping. Yeah. And I really wondered for a while whether that was going to stick around for long enough that was going to become something that we're used to, where we start going like, wait a second.
They're not after us. It's not that relationship that you kind of have in your head when you're driving around and you see like, oh shit, he's behind me, he's going to pull me over.
Yeah.
They're
looking for something.
And I wondered if that was going to like stick around for long enough that we'd adjust and be like, wait a second, like that sucks. Like that's not how I want to feel about the police. Like there's no reason for us to go, oh shit, I was going 38 and 35. Fuck, is he gonna pull me over? Is he gonna be cool? And unfortunately it didn't stick around long enough where that adjusted. Like I'm right back to going like, oh fuck, I'm gonna get pulled over. But listen, obviously cops do have an unbelievably difficult job. And they tend to do a very, very good job, and they're very noble. But it's interesting that like definitely in by state, area by area, city by city, even like neighborhood by neighborhood, how different the relationship with cops can be, especially as a car enthusiast. Like you said, like like my younger brother has a McLaren 570 Spider, and he likes to go run around PCH and Malibu Mountains, and even if you're doing even if you're not driving like an asshole, you're still going fast enough to get in trouble. And the last several weeks they've been doing such intensive lockdowns of those roads that are giving out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tickets that like it's not even fun anymore. Like it's like one of these like outlets that should be an opportunity that
you might as well stay away. Yeah, there's no point in even going out there right now if you live in Southern California.
The streets belong to the cops, and like you have to ask permission practically to use it. And it's so sad, especially in Southern California, of all the places that that the car culture is so important. But definitely like in places like Texas and places like even Columbus and Lexington, I think to maybe
the
not
cops.
As much.
So we were fine for a little bit, and then all of a sudden fuck boys gonna fuck boy is the way I'll put it. But everybody was doing laps of downtown and doing burnouts, all kinds of stuff, and now they're just all over it. So if you go down there with exhaust, they're pulling you over and giving you tickets, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, definitely there can be different. Some people will be listening to us on the, in the cities, in LA or in wherever, and go like, wow, like, wait, you can actually go and cruise and not get a fix-it ticket. You're not going to get pulled over for tinted windows. And like, I never have that worry ever here. And definitely in LA, I certainly did.
But I'll say the people here that are getting pulled over, they're doing something to deserve
they
it.
If you're deserve it. Yeah.
If you're two-stepping down Main Street, doing laps, two-stepping and doing burnouts, you're gonna get pulled over. If you're
feel like such a Karen. So Kevin is involved in one of like the Facebook Lexington groups, which are, by the way, every single town car culture, or like car club, whatever, like Columbus car culture, or or Lexington, whatever, they're always dumpster fires, and the Lexington one is also a fucking dumpster fire.
It's like it's not. It's like a landfill fire. It's like a landfill that's on fire.
It's fucking horrific, and like I've never felt more like a Karen than watching it. Like I'm like, oh, I hope you guys go down to the pit and that you guys all get pulled over for your loud exhaust.
That's awesome. I won't name the exact one, but there's a couple Corvette ones like that. Oh my gosh. Like somewhere even made me, I'm like, whoa guys, I'm going to tap out of this one. This is just a little too extreme for me. And I'm just sitting back there watching it, and I'm just like,
just eating popcorn,
don't even need to get involved in this one.
I go in there and I start typing and I go, nope, I'm just trolling, and I just backspace, and then I walk away. I close the app and I go do something.
There's a lot of those groups where I find myself like going like, holy shit, these people are like real people. Like they exist. Yeah. These people are real people in the world.
And that's a real post and a real question or a real statement. They're not fucking around.
Yeah,
that guy actually spelled things that way.
I think
hit post, with spell check, hit post.
That's some of the things today. When you're looking at the car community, I think everybody, especially now that we've been dealing with all this, everybody's sitting in and everybody's anxious to get out. People are trying to find that new outlet in the car community, because there's cars and coffees, and then inevitably they get shut down because somebody goes out and does burnouts or pisses off the neighbors or whatever it might be. And that's one thing that we've been talking, not just amongst ourselves here, but how do you find that? Because these people behind the keyboard, that gets no fun. That gets real old real quick, and then everybody's burnt out on it. I mean, because you guys remember forums. I mean, forums were great for a while. And then it just turned into that, you're like, oh, okay, I can't even get a real answer.
Yeah. Hey, the search button's up there, buddy. Why don't you try that? You're like, well, I did, and I didn't find my answer. That's why I'm asking, but thanks for being a dick.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing I ever got kicked out of, Brandon, on Facebook and social media was a fish keeping group.
All right, I got to hear that story. You opened the door for that one, guy.
No, it was. I've got a bad.
How did you get kicked out of a fish community?
So I've got a fish problem. I got a bunch of fish tanks, and I like expensive freshwater fish, and so inevitably they always joke around that there's the fish police. And long story short, my daughter has, I think, the record going for a fair goldfish. She won this goldfish at a fair, and it's almost 3 years old now.
Wow. Usually they only last like 3 days. So that's really impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, hey, check it out. We upgraded it. We put him in a 10-gallon tank out of this little tank. And somebody's like, oh my God, you're an evil person. And I was like, oh, thanks, fish police. Boom, banned. I was like,
wow,
really?
You got just hammered by the fish people. That's
instantly. Apparently I drew the line, and that was that.
that's a feat. Well, while Brandon stepped away, I got to ask a question on this one, because I was cruising your Instagram, and this thing just is definitely blowing me away. Let me grab this one. But so I love the PTS cars. I'm talking about pretty much every show, but this amethyst metallic speedster, I have not seen this before, and this is one of my favorite colors, hands down, for a Porsche. Absolutely beautiful. Is there a story behind this? The guy approached you. How did this one come to fruition?
So this is actually a customer that deals with my partner, John, and one of our dealers. And he's had a number of sets, and everything that he does is paint to sample. And so this is actually the render. And I mean, the car is just, it's going to be insane. I thought we had something on it. But yeah,
I didn't see it on the website yet. So I mean, have the wheels been built? Is the car even? I'd imagine the car is here because the photo looks real. But
yeah, everything's there, and I think it's all done. I think it's all completed, and I think we're just waiting for the photo shoot. So we do, we try to shoot cars like that. We got to get something. I mean, we've got to get photos.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a 1F1 Speedster in amethyst. I mean, it's a classic Porsche color. It's one of the best Porsche colors in my opinion. I'm a huge fan of purple cars. I can't stay away from them. So,
yeah.
Brandon, we were just talking PTS Porsches while you stepped out for a moment. So making sure you knew what topic we were on. So I'll look forward to seeing photos.
Good job making sure that people don't know that I walked away.
Oh, I said that you walked away. So you obviously weren't listening.
I heard every word. Amethyst, PTS, it's a render, blah blah blah.
So I will look forward to seeing real photos of that car once the photo shoot goes down, because that thing is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's funny because my partner John, I call him the ninja, because most of my day, I do the social media thing, but I'm not like him. He's on it constantly. He's pushing the marketing, and so he is constantly seeing everything. That's his job. That's what he's doing. And me, I'm like, for me, it's secondary. I'm more focused on the dealers and working with them, answering all the questions. Usually in the evening, I'm online WeChat and WhatsApp, talking to all my international customers. And, it's pretty funny because, sorry guys, I just totally blanked on that one. I thought about something else and I went, uh-oh, squirrel. But, oh shoot.
No worries. It's all good. We can easily segue, because Brandon and I were just talking the other day about the new 991 Targa that dropped. I'm sorry, 992 Targa they dropped, and you guys already have a rendering of one on some of your RS1s, which looks absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
So we'll look forward to see a Targa. But what's your thoughts on the new Targa, Guy?
I actually like it. I like that kind of bubble glass in the back. I think it's kind of funky, and I think that's we had a long conversation, and that's actually what we were talking about was, Porsche, the 911 especially, is unique because how the heck does Porsche keep making that car better? And somehow they do. It's amazing. I mean, we were talking about, you remember when Nissan, the R35 came out, the GTR, everybody, they were beating up people for using launch control and voiding their warranties. And Porsche was like, okay, I think it was Tanner Faust or somebody. They took them out there. They did 100 back-to-back launches on launch control with no brakes. And the car it's kind of like, done.
And they were like, yeah, keep going. It was made to do that. We designed it that way.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just curious, like, is there any like hesitation when rendering like a car like that, for example, whether or not like it's going to, having that out there, like, and it doesn't actually ever come to fruit, if you don't end up finding a 992 Target, like, the mix, because Photoshops have gotten so good now, is there any concern that like not being able to tell which ones are real, which ones are actually, which ones are Photoshops? Does that worry you at all?
Not really. We post up, render to reality or something like that. We don't try to claim that something's real. It's not. That's in our mind. That's just not cool. Do
you guys have people like taking your guys' shit and representing it as their own? Like, does that happen to you guys or not really?
We have officially made it. We've got knockoffs in a couple countries already. So that was, I don't know if I should be excited or not, but yeah, we were kind of. It was a weird feeling of celebration, like, okay, hey, somebody finally found us worthy enough to knock us off. And it actually happened. The first one we saw was a little after a year in business. And, but no, mostly we don't, we really don't get that a lot. I think, I was just watching some of the other ones and Mike mentioned it, Mike Forsyth. It's a small community. It is, everybody knows everybody, and it's not going to go far. And if you do something, it's going to get called out. That's just, it's true. It really, I mean, you end up knowing everybody. I mean, it's really funny because, John, my partner, worked for another wheel company that was very competitive with HRE at the time. And everybody's like, oh, you guys are working together? And I'm like, yeah, I knew him for like 4 years before he worked with them. He's a good dude, and that's it. He's very different to me. He's our guy for the renders.
I can't tell.
And then No,
ahead,
I'm
B.
here.
I just want to
So
make sure you weren't.
what's like the next what's the next fun, interesting car that you have your sights set on?
Oh man, I think the next ones that are coming out are going to be, Ferrari's got some interesting stuff coming out.
I meant for your garage.
Oh, for me personally, I don't know.
The GTI has flown the coop.
I got to say, so that was my first GTI. That was actually my first German car, and I enjoyed that car so much. I went with the truck only because I had to go. Okay, I have to adult here for a little bit and have
And I
something
live in
to throw as a kid.
Texas.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, yeah, you throw the inner tubes in the back, you go float the river. It's so much easier with a truck. It really is. And I got a big lab, and so I throw the lab in the truck, and I don't worry about it. That's the fun part about the truck. But I might go back. I actually really strongly considered getting a Golf R. I enjoyed that car that much. It was so fun. I bought it from day one. It had an APR K04 on it. The car made, great power, and it wasn't the fastest thing, but it was so fun because nobody out here expected it.
And the KO4 is perfect on that car. That I loved that 2-liter with the KO4.
So that would be a Mark 6 then, correct?
Yeah, it was a Mark 6. Yeah. Yeah, that car was just
I wanted to buy it so badly, man. I wanted to buy it when you were selling it. You sold it so cheap.
So, it's funny. You don't know. And the best part about it, so when I sold that car, the guy that came and bought it, he test drove it. Well, first I drove it, and I was telling him, I'm like, so yeah, it's got the KO4 on and everything. And he goes, we got into it. He goes, holy crap, this thing is insanely fast. And he bought it, and he was buying it for a commuter, and then he ended up buying like a $800 car in addition to drive that to and from work, and then just completely went through it and fixed it all up. Like, because he just loved the car. He didn't understand what an APR KO4 was, and he didn't understand everything else that it had, full suspension on it, coilovers, and he had no idea what all that really meant. And just a blast of a car.
I'm
Brandon,
trying right now to find a picture of your.
That's what I'm trying to do right now too. Your R didn't have a KO4 on it, right? Yours was just
the R is KO, so that's what it is.
Gotcha.
The GTI would take like they do now, basically.
It was
like
the KO3S. Yeah, exactly.
So you put the KO4 in motor, and it make like around 300 horsepower, and it was great. It drove perfectly. I mean, it drove just like stock. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Hold on, let me screen share over here. I just Googled. Here we go. I just Googled Guy HRE Mark 6 GTI. That's your car, right?
Yeah. So that was
before they were red.
Oh, those are my favorite HREs, hands down, right there.
Oh. Yeah. That was the first set that I had on it. And I think that was right after it went up to iBog. I didn't realize when I bought it, I had one of the first ones. And they were like, hey, can we borrow it? And we want to do some testing. I'm like, yeah, go at it. So they borrowed it and put the springs on it, and then we put the wheels on it, and then those went to a satin brushed red. And then later on down the road,
and you still have them?
No, they're gone.
Oh, you sold them, you mother.
They're gone.
Brandon likes to collect wheels, especially 5x112 wheels. He has a ton of them, sitting in his basement and stuff. So
Guy knows this. No, but do you still have the 3-piece ones, or no? Did you end up selling?
No, those are gone. So the P43 SEs actually went to a friend of Alan's at HRE, who's a good friend of theirs. And then I got the C109s, and then I had those things forever. I mean, it's funny. I always use those and tell a joke. It took me moving here to Texas to hit a pothole big enough. I finally bent one. And I mean, but I said, these people that are like, no, I don't even know what I hit. I'm like, are you kidding me? I hit something. I thought I destroyed my car. And I had hit some other stuff where it shook the car bad, thinking I was going to get flat, and never.
One of my fillings fell out.
Yeah. Yeah. It scared me to death when I bent it. I mean, like, I hit it so hard.
I had a HRE 540s that I actually just sold last week.
Nice.
And I had a flat tire, and there was nowhere to pull over. I was on a 2-lane back road, so literally nowhere to pull over. And I'm like, I'm going to ruin this thing 100%.
Yeah.
Pulled the tire off. No problems whatsoever. Straight and true. And they were used when I bought them. So a testament to HRE quality. I don't know what he's talking about, but I'm going to use this as a shameless plug for my own car when it was on HREs, just to show you guys, because you might be interested. But we'll just pop this up right here. So
I was saying that I would I'm a little disappointed that you ended up selling them, because I like in the back of my head was planning on buying them.
Were you really?
Oh, he had his three
Oh, your
they were
three
piece, right?
The C109s. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the C109 on 3-piece.
And they were way too cheap, and he was gonna go get them like redone in whatever color. And
I was trying to flex on my 540s, but my computer is apparently not agreeing with it. So I guess that's a
no.
That's a no, apparently.
Yeah. Guy, it's looking very likely that in the next week that I will be.
Oh, the suspense is killing me.
An Atlas to the fleet.
Oh yeah,
Volkswagen Atlas. Are you hearing me yet? Yeah. So based on that behemoth style SUV, what's your instinct for an ANRKY wheel that would look best on it?
I like a solid 5-spoke.
So which style would you go with?
AN15. If you want it clean. Or are you gonna lower this SUV, or are you gonna keep it?
I don't know. I'm looking for guidance from the great Guy.
Guidance from Guy.
So
that's actually a great Guy. You have to start a podcast.
The guidance.
And we're guidance from Guy.
Maybe something like this.
Yeah, that 5-spoke. That's our AN35. So that's the 3-piece version. I think I'd probably with that we'll do an AN15, which is the 1-piece version. I also like the AN18 or 38. And then if you wanted to go crazy,
of course I want to go crazy, Guy.
Yeah,
it's his wife's SUV. Of course he wants to go crazy.
Of course I do.
You could go with the X series, man. I mean, just to go bonkers on it, something like the S1 or S3 X2 would just look that, or the X5 would look just absolutely nuts on it.
Oh, those are the wheels that was the wheels you were debuting when we were at SEMA.
Okay, so that was last year, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the X series.
Outrageously. Yeah, I mean, so for those playing at home, make sure you look up ANRKY. So it's ANRKY, and just look up S3 X2, and like the work and craftsmanship on these wheels. I mean, I got to touch them and lick them in Vegas, and it's next level awesomeness, and especially the color combinations that end up getting offered through it are unbelievable. And when you see them, let's say, 20, 21 inch, whatever, something like that, S3, X2, let's say, what is approximately, retail cost on something like that? Approximately.
You're going to be, they start at 3,050 and 20 per wheel.
Per wheel. So for those, again, playing the home game, if you have a let's call it a 987 Boxster at home, for example, and you no longer want to have it at home, but you do want wheels for your wife's Atlas, the ANRKY S3 X2s are the way to go.
Yes, exactly. Don't compromise.
Not on wheels. You can't cheap out on wheels. We all know that here.
And it is funny that you say that, because that is something that is plaguing this industry. When you get a guy that's driving a 488 and wants to buy a flow form set, and it's like, okay, a lot of these are the guys that they've never bought wheels. And I always, one thing that I did was I actually looked up and would talk to the different Ferrari dealers and say, okay, hey, I got a 458 or I got a 488 and I need to replace my wheels. What do they cost? Did you know that a 458 set of wheels, no tires, $19,600?
I believe it.
I mean, that makes me cringe.
Even looking at like Porsche turbo wheels, which are like usually the forged ones of any given Porsche series, are like $3,000, close to $3,000 a piece retail MSRP. You may not pay that, but that's what they're, the part number for Porsche shows them about $2,000 to $3,000 a piece.
Yeah, I always tell it, take the prancing horse, markup, and let's say it's 20%.
Porsche tax.
Yeah, the Porsche tax, the Ferrari tax, and okay, let's say it's 20%. We're still a bargain, and then you're going to get, not only are you going to get good quality, you're going to get a nice forged wheel that matches the performance of the vehicle, but you're going to also get the style.
Well, and you're taking a forged wheel off the car, and the guy's asking for a flow formed wheel to put back on the car. To me, if it came with a forged wheel, you should probably have a forged wheel going back on it.
Yeah. We had, it's funny, people always, oh, do you do wheels for Bugattis? We do. Do you do wheels for Carrera GTs and Enzos? And for a long time, we resisted that because, they got forged magnesiums on the Enzos. And then I finally had a customer that bugged us enough. And he had one of two, I guess, in the world, black with red guts Enzos. And he was like, man, I just want to drive my car. And he goes, the problem is I can't drive it with my forged magnesium wheels on there because, if I scratch that, I can't get that wheel anymore. My car takes a massive hit in value. So I want to take those wheels off and just put on a set of HREs and, that was at the time, and drive them around. So we actually have been doing that quite a bit for Ford GT guys.
But it's like similar with the Bugattis, right? Didn't the tires on like a Veyron cost 30 grand or something? And you had to replace them once a year or every 2 years or something along those lines. So if you want to pull those off and throw something like this on there that looks fantastic on a Chiron, who am I to judge? Looked great. Love it. Yeah,
that car looks so good. Those cars are insane.
I love it with the finish of the wheels and that accent, with the accent trim right here in the C shape. It all just flows very well together. Really nice.
The signature Bugatti C.
That's it.
Signature Bugatti C. So do you have like a favorite? Do you have like a wheel where like a wheel, whether it was on the car, like you're like, oh, this one was perfection, or do you have just a wheel that that's just your?
To try to pick one wheel is tough.
Yeah,
I would
go ahead and pick one wheel.
I mean, it's tough because me personally, I always like a multi-spoke wheel. I'm always something like an AN18 or even a mesh. I just love those kind of that classic design. And then every once in a while,
that AN18 is the one that we saw on the Taycan just a little bit ago, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna throw it up for you here.
Yeah,
the AN18, the one piece.
Yeah, I've always loved just an even spoked wheel like that, not too crazy. And then I guess it just comes down to then, like what car am I doing it on? The S1X1 we did on a turbo, a 991 Turbo S that just looked bonkers. It's in our gallery. That wheel is one of my favorites as well.
Oh, and you guys did it on a Miami Blue GT3 also, it looks like.
Yep.
So that's a beautiful, beautiful car.
Yeah.
So Guy hits the lottery. Okay. Guy decides to go play with Powerball. What's the first exotic that Guy goes and buys or orders?
I'm thinking it's either an F8, something along that line. Actually, I take it back. I'd probably end up going with an 812 because I just love that naturally aspirated V12 sound.
The client that had the 458, he had a 458 and what was his other car?
He had a it was an F12. It wasn't an 812. It was an F12.
The 458 became the F12. He had a 458 and something else. I don't remember.
He had an M3.
M4. Yeah.
M4.
He dailied an M4 and had the 458 and turned those
M4
two cars.
Is still an M3 in my opinion.
Right. But now an M3 is a Tesla. So
it was always a Mazda to begin with. Don't forget that.
He got rid of both and got an F12. And yeah, I mean the front engined 12 cylinder in that thing was an absolute mind fuck. It was so savage. It was so angry. Yeah, that was a great car. And I'm looking at you guys did an red F12 on.
Oh, I got it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, does it get any better than that? Boom. My God.
Yeah, I mean, Ferrari with a split 5-spoke, it's kind of like hand in hand.
Oh, it's
so
perfect.
There's a red F12 that we did on there on some RS1s, which are retro series, and it's funny because, man, every time I start thinking about different wheel styles, it really depends on the car, because then I start going, oh man, I love this wheel on this car. you know, we originally did the retro series with the mindset of, okay, Audi customers, BMW customers, but they took off on McLaren and Ferrari and Lambo. We've just been doing it like nuts. It's just crazy because it has the old school J-lip on it, you know, and then we'll take little styling cues from some of the classic throwback styles. You know, we don't want to take it and try to redo it. We just want little styling cues that just a little throwback for people that have seen it. Like most people nowadays, they go, "What's a J-lip?"
I think that shows it off perfectly right there with a nice anodized purple lip. I mean, it's a beautiful wheel, and it throws back definitely to that style.
Yeah. And that's looks like an Audi RS5 Sportback. I can't see what the 21-inch retro series RS1 for those. If you want to Google that, it's an image of an RS5 with purple lips. Really dope. So what is your favorite, you know, non-ANRKY, non-HRE? What's your favorite wheel of all time? Do you have like a oh, this is
like Brandon's is always a BBS LM. He's always going to go to BBS LMs.
It's such a classic, you know. Okay, so non-ANRKY, non-HRE.
Are you more of like a BBS RS? Are you more of an LM? Or are you like the, you know?
You know which one of my favorite wheels is the Fixie FM5.
Oh, yep, yeah, huge in the Porsche world.
Yeah, it's like I still, and I know somebody who here is actually pretty close to me who has a 997 turbo. He built some relatively fast Vipers that that has one that is just, it's freaking beautiful.
I have a friend that has a 95 M3 Dynan S3 that has the Dynan spec FM5s on it, which are like unobtainium at this point, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I was trying to see if I had a quick photo to pull up, but I don't. I'm supposed to actually grab some photos of that car, but it won't stop raining here, so I can't do it. But yeah, great, obviously a great wheel.
Yeah, really awesome, and I always love the BBS, the classic BBS. You just can't go wrong with it. And then, I mean, you got to like Volk as well. I mean, you can never go wrong with a TE37. I remember the first time I was at Beamer Fest and saw there was a blue one that was, what do they call that? It's like the Miami blue color for BMW. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Laguna Seca.
Yeah, Laguna Seca blue. And it had white TE37s on it. And I was like, I would have never, ever picked that. And I lost my mind. The car was so nice. So if you're watching and that's your car, hey.
That was a thumbs up.
Well, yeah, that thing since I couldn't flex on my HREs, I'll flex on my old Volks then, just to throw that out there. But
there you go.
They were barely Volks, Kevin.
They were barely Volks. They were the only set of gold 5x120s in the U.S. So yeah, they were barely Volks according to Brandon.
But at least they weren't folks.
Barely Volks.
That is true. And I did end up getting center caps for him. And Brandon, I think you took
Kevin,
that picture. If I'm not mistaken.
Picture. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No photo credit. Yeah. No photo credit. Very cool. Yeah, well, Guy, we're gonna have to have you back because there's so much to talk about, and it's already starting to get late for us here. But I want to let everybody go. But before we do, I do want to make sure I was drinking this time. Another pleasant surprise from Platform Beer Co. I have their Life with Disco, and it's another sour. And I usually don't like these beers at all, but this one. So this is an Imperial Ghost Ale with natural flavors. It's blackberry and lemon peel tart. Kevin, you're gonna have to try this one. It's delicious, actually.
Yeah, I need to come up and grab some Platform because like I said, I can't get it down here.
Did you drink it all tonight or no?
Yeah, keg beer. So I'm back on my flex, as you call it.
Cool. Yeah. But yeah, no, there's so much to talk about, like as far as family and Texas life and stuff like that. So we're gonna have to have you back at some point. But
absolutely.
I wanted to make sure to thank you for coming on. Kevin, do you have any final wrap up or thoughts?
Check out ANRKY Wheels on Instagram at ANRKY. I believe it's just at ANRKY.
ANRKY Wheels at ANR. Go ahead.
ANRKY Wheels on Instagram. ANRKYWheels.com. Check them out. Awesome stuff. Very cool. And like Guy was saying, they do photo shoots on everything or a lot of the cars that they do. So there's a ton of great content on their website. So please go check that out. Thank you, Guy. Appreciate it. Haven't seen you since SEMA.
Anything you want to plug, Kev or Guy? Anything before we bounce out of here? Anything you want to plug?
No, I mean, it's been great, guys. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a lot of fun. I love, one of my favorite things is just hanging out and talking cars because it's funny. We all have those memories, and that's the thing that I'm enjoying now is not only doing all the modern day stuff, but really the project cars. Those are getting real fun. There's a lot of stuff out there that's become a blast. And just so you know, it's ANRKY.com. So they'll get there if they do the Anarchy Wheels. Yeah, just ANRKY.com. And that'll get them there. They can check it out.
Very cool. And then anyone that's looking to order a set, Guy can definitely forward you to the proper channel to one of your local sales or distributor person. But otherwise, on behalf of myself and Kevin and Guy, we want to thank you all for listening. Make sure you're staying safe, make sure you're staying healthy. And most importantly, Kevin, you want to tell them this time?
Wash your hands, guys. It's easy. It's not hard.
Just wash your fucking hands.
Just wash your fucking hands.
All right.
Okay.
I'll see you guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.